All right, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started here today. Appreciate your time. We're joined by Associate Head Coach and Defensive Coordinator Doug Belk. The Cougars wrapping up spring practice here this week. We can go ahead and get things started with Joseph Duarte. Joseph?
What's going on, Doug?
Hey, JD, how you doing?
Good. As you get close to finishing here, just curious from when we started the spring with you, what have you liked? Sort of the to-do list. Have you been able to check off, as many items as you had hoped?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of guys that have gotten better. Spring is a time for guys to kind of individually focus on things they need to focus on, as well as build depth and competition for our team. You've seen a lot of great things, and some of the guys that we cover, some of our offensive linemen that we go against in our backs, is great competition every day. Some guys standing out, and then I think I've gotten better as a coach. Our coaching staff has gotten closer. Our kids love to play for each other, offense and defense, and it's been fun.
Thanks, Joseph. We'll send it over to James Mueller. James?
Yeah, hey, Doug. Last time we talked, you talked about, some returning guys like Manny Nunnery, guys like that will, step into increased roles this year. But I was wondering, some of the newcomers, whether, transfers, freshmen, or early enrollees, have any of those guys really stood out or just, caught your eye over the spring?
Yeah, I'll start up front. I mean, a couple new guys that we've added. The name Tucker is full of life, full of energy. I think he's going to be a great compliment as a pass rusher, and some of the things that we could do with him. Has a very unique skill set, kind of halfway in between David and DA. They can play on the edge, but we can move around and do some things with. And then, Big Aussie, him coming in, a great addition in the middle, just a massive, big competitive guy with this full of life all the time, always smiling. What a pleasure to be around. He's getting better each and every day. And then Zai Strong, one of the top DNs in the country that we were able to acquire. He's got a lot of work to do. But he's been impressive as well, just his size, his strength, and some of the ability that he has to go along with some of the other guys that we have up there. Our linebacker position, Coach Mack did an awesome job, adding some size and length and speed and some depth in that room. Tremarcus Cheeks coming in from Sanford. I mean, he's been unbelievable, very mature, very intelligent, very well respected already by the guys based off the way he works and communicates. And football is important to him. Great addition. And then you look at a guy like Jamal Morris, who's come from Oklahoma, converted safety. He's jumped in and done a really good job. It almost looks identical physically to Manny. Has the same type of game size and speed, and very athletic. And one of the most impressive guys, I would say, throughout this whole spring, if you ask anybody on our staff, is Traylon Payne. A true freshman, early enrollee. He's going to be special. I mean, I think everybody that gets a chance to lay eyes on him, the way he runs and hits, and he does so many things naturally. Doesn't look like a freshman, hasn't acted like a freshman. Very proud of him. And it's been good to see Cheeks and some of these guys like Malik and Manny step up. Donovan Mutant hadn't been out there, and oftentimes I refer to him as the quarterback of the defense. And, it's been impressive to see some of these other guys step up and lead. And in the back end, kind of more of a veteran group right now. Young guys that haven't played much, like DeMarcus Griffin-Taylor and Jalen Emery. And then we added Latif and, getting a guy like Antonio Brooks really going, and he's very talented. He's been probably one of the most impressive guys in the secondary this far throughout the spring football. And so increased role for him. And I think, just the older guys getting better and, attacking different challenges each and every day, kind of improvements on the scheme, as well as individual goals that they have for themselves.
Pass it along to Greg Bailey. Greg?
Coach, you're talking about newcomers and you really like what they're doing. Are you to the point with your defense where kind of the characteristics that you're looking for, the standard that you're looking for, can they be passed to one generation to the next? And what perhaps are those standards that you try to ingrain in a spring practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's definitely some characteristics that we look for as we recruit. We want guys with high passion for the game, guys who love to play football. That's one of the first things that we ask ourselves about guys as we evaluate, do they love football? Because if you love football, a lot of those other things come easy for you, whether you're the most talented guy or you're not. Those things carry over. And our goal every week is to play with more effort and more physicality. So guys who play hard, that love football, and then each position has a different skill set that we look for, and each one of those guys that we brought in kind of trickle down to some of the guys that we've already had, some similar body types, some similar mindsets, We just got to continue to develop and understand how Coach Holgerson runs the program and the expectations that we have defensively that we want to achieve each and every week.
And Coach, if I could follow up just really quickly, are you already seeing that these newcomers, guys that are stepping into roles, they want to uphold the standard of U of H defense?
Yeah, you know, the beautiful thing about where we're at as a program, and we've had a lot of consistency in our staff, and we have a lot of players that we've recruited that have been here multiple years. So, you know, those older guys like Donovan, who's been a captain, Hassan Hippolyte, Javarius Owens' leadership role is growing, Malik, Jace Rogers, and then up front you got guys like Sid and even DeAnthony that play relentlessly, and Nelson Caesar doesn't say a word, but they have to follow the way that those guys work. And so that's the standard that we've set. And, you know, it makes our job a lot easier because we talk about PLT, often player-led team. And so we expect those guys to set the standard for anybody that walks in, not only set the standard for how they practice, but things that they don't know to kind of mentor them and bring them along, whether we got a one-year transfer or a true freshman like Traylon. The standard is the same, and each one of those guys have to come to work every day with the same mindset and the same goals.
Thanks, Greg. We'll send it back over to Joseph Duarte.
Can you remember when the sort of the, and I guess it's mostly for the high school guys or maybe some of the JUCO guys as well, where the mid-year enrollee situation sort of really became a big deal, where you know some guys wanted to get in to the spring early, maybe get used to things, maybe get a head start, you know, but coaches looking at them. You know, have you noticed how it's taken up? Because I think you guys had a lot this year, numbers wise, but and really the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's evolving with education in the online classes that they're available to take. And a lot of these young men take college courses, or their academic process is expedited throughout their high school career, which gives them a little leg up on getting here, getting acclimated, understanding scheme. But more than football, it allows them to learn how to be a college student. You know, sometimes that's the biggest curve is you go from living at home with your parents or family, and you come here and you got to learn how to wash your clothes and manage your time and you know, be responsible. And for somebody that's 17, 18 years old, that could be very difficult. And, you know, every school doesn't offer the ability to get out to be at an early enroll. But I do think it's some added advantages for both parties, whether it's a student athlete or the university and us as coaches, to be able to get our hands on guys a little bit earlier and start to coach them and develop them within the scheme and teach them the expectations from an academic standpoint and what it means to go to University of Houston. And then football kind of takes care of itself because, you know, we feel like all the guys that we recruit, we wouldn't really be recruiting them if they weren't good student athletes and good football players. So just expedites the process a little bit. And I think that, you know, the more that we can get, you know, the better it is, but it's not really a criteria for some of the best players that are committed to come here to sign on signing day aren't on campus yet. And we have high expectations for them as well.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Joseph. We'll send it back over to James Mueller. James?
Yeah, Doug, earlier in the spring, you talked about even with the loss of Marcus and Pepe, that you felt like, you know, you had a cornerback group that can step in and, you know, fill those roles. But what specifically, like, were like some of the checkpoints, goals? What were you looking for from this cornerback group, which just so that you see that they're on that right track to, because those are big shoes to fill, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it might take 4 or 5 scholarships to replace those two, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, I have a lot of confidence in the guys that we have brought on campus and that we've recruited. The 2 guys that are going to fill the role immediately are Art Green and Alex Hogan, who played a lot last year in those sub packages. They rotated with Marcus and Pepe, a lot of ability. I think the thing that you'll see with us now, we have a little bit more length in the secondary than we had over the last couple of years, even though some of the smaller guys that we've had, like Marcus, Pepe, and even Jace Rogers, have been some of the best guys that we put on the field. But I think their skill sets are a little bit different, but I think they have a lot of ability. And knowing that, you know, the success that Marcus and Pepe have had, I think is actually a motivating factor for all of those guys back there. I think Javarius is continuing to grow as a leader. Him and Hippolyte have played a lot, but then when that kind of goes, you know, into the cornerback room as well, because we all meet together and Coach Rowe does a great job with those guys. And so the standard is a standard. So we expect them to play at a high level. And the more reps you get, the better you'll get. And they've gotten a lot of reps this spring. They showed a lot of signs of improvement. And I think that they'll be ready to go when we have a chance to kick off the season this fall. And then some of the new additions and some of the young guys got to step up. I expect Jalen Emery to be a big asset because he's got a skill set very similar to Pepe, very quick twitch, explosive, and he can run. And then you look at guys like Latif, and then Moses will be added into the group, and then DeMarcus Griffin-Taylor, Mark Wilson. So got some youth there that we have to develop, but a lot of length and athleticism in the group.
If I could follow up real quick, would you say there's a lot of, like with all the guys you got in there's a lot of competition within that group, just like among each other, just pushing each other, I guess, just trying to earn spots?
Definitely. I mean, if you don't compete in that room, it's a very difficult room to be in. I mean, the standard has been set very high. Some big personalities in there. And so I think, Alex and Art know they have a lot to live up to, but the young guys want to compete with Alex and Art and all the different pieces that we have back there just to kind of set the standard. And we play a lot of guys. And so everybody's trying to develop a role, whether you're playing corner or nickel. We play with 3 corners most of the game. So the competition level is very high. And some days we mix pieces around and see how guys respond, to some adversity, or if they're playing really well, how long can they play that way? Can you put together a good day consistently, or is there a lot of highs and lows in your games and inconsistency? And that's the thing that we really want to achieve throughout spring football, is to kind of create some separation and have a lot of competition at every position.
Send it over to Joseph Duarte.
Doug, a guy that we talked about a little bit last year and sort of getting his feet wet and what you wanted to see, Jalen Garner at linebacker, has he taken, the steps that you'd like to see between redshirt, young kid year to, that second year?
Yeah, Coach Matt gave him the nickname of Pup. So he has a nickname of Pup on defense, especially in the linebacker room, because he doesn't say much. And he was just looking around with all the different checks and calls, and he's shown flashes over the last couple of weeks of why he was so highly touted when he came out of high school out of the state of Georgia. But he can run and he can tackle the football. He has a nose for the ball. He plays aggressive and he loves the game. And he's gained a lot of respect from his teammate. You see his personality starting to open up a lot more. I expect him to be a contributor this year. And I think years to come, we got a really good group at that position that's going to be here for a long time. And he's one of the guys that is going to be a good player here for a long time.
Thanks, Joseph. We'll keep it open if there's one or two more for Coach before we let him go.
Doug, I know it's on the other side of the ball, but in terms of, we focus a lot on your front, but on the other side, as they sort of look for the pieces on the offensive line, have you noticed anything on the offensive side of the line, and how they're coming along, based off of having to go against your guys every day in the spring?
Yeah, the game is won and lost in the trenches, and I truly believe that we have one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he's playing unbelievable right now. And I'm really just proud of Clayton too, and the way he's able to lead our team, the way he's throwing the ball, and the way the timing is with our receivers right now. It's pretty fun to watch. And it gives us a great chance to compete each and every day. But up front, I've seen a lot of maturity. I've seen a lot of growth, especially with guys like Pat Paul, who we expect big things from. Him continue to get better. Cam Johnson. But I think the guy, in my opinion, that has been much improved and has been very impressed with me is Jack Freeman. He's done a really good job, this spring, and he probably has the hardest job of any, because he has to line up in front of Dot every play. And he's very difficult to block and very aggressive. And then we're throwing big Aussie in. He's seeing a whole bunch of different body types, Jermichael Neal at that position. So he has to block a lot of different guys, and they're breathing down his neck every play. I've been very impressed with him. A new guy we added, Pancake Hunter. I think he's going to be special. You're talking about one of the young guys that's doing a really good job. And then, we've got young guys who are starting to come along there, like Trevante Sylvester. I noticed a lot. And some of those young guys. So I think Coach Jones is doing a really good job of developing them and, having some consistency. And, the people we play from a health perspective is big, because we haven't had that until the end of last year. And Cody Russey provided a lot of leadership in that room. And I think Jack has kind of assumed that role. And I think some of these young guys that have been in the program 2 and 3 years are starting to show. And that position is very difficult, because it's a lot of camaraderie that has to go along. So inconsistencies in the lineup with injuries is very tough, and it's a developmental position. So sometimes you don't often see at the offensive line position, what you really got until they're in the program for a couple of years. And between Coach Jones and Coach Bauer, our strength coach, who does an outstanding job, you've seen their bodies change and you've seen those guys mature. And it's been very competitive so far this spring.
We'll send it over to Mark Berman. Mark?
Doug, you've lost some significant talent this year. How invaluable is this time trying to replace all those guys?
This is the most important time of the year for us. One, we have to identify guys who have to assume those roles. And a lot of those guys were on the team last year, and then we added some new pieces. Like looking up front, we have strength in numbers, but who's going to separate themselves? At 3 technique, Logan Hall was the best player in our conference, in my opinion, between him and Marcus, along with a couple of guys that were at Cincinnati. But he was the most dominant player, in my opinion. And you look at Elias Bell, who seemed to make one big play every game that could change the game with his athleticism. And then you look at Said, who was injured, but he plays with more passion and energy than anybody on the field at all times. And then Latrell Bankston, is playing that position as well. So out of those 3 guys, we don't have a guy with that type of mass, that type of size up front, besides Ossie, but he kind of plays a different position. So we got strength in numbers, and those guys have to continue to work to separate themselves, gain weight, be more physical and get stronger. But I feel good about the guys that we have right now. Losing, on the second level, I think, like I said, we've done a good job of, replacing some backers. Deontay gave us a lot as far as intelligence and a lot of snaps played, maturity, knowing the back end, as well as being a linebacker, got people lined up, always in the right place at the line, right time, whether he was making a play or not making a play, seemed to always do things right. And then in the back end, obviously losing Marcus and Pepe is very difficult based on the way that we play and the aggressive nature that we play with. And we play a lot of man-to-man coverage and a lot of match coverages. So, replacing those 2 are probably the more difficult positions, just based off of, not only were they really good football players and had the ability to play man-to-man, they were also very intelligent, and they were probably the best 2 tacklers that we had on our team. So when you look in the grand scheme of things, seeing these young guys step up, developing skill sets, telling each player individually, what they need to work on to get better for themselves and for our team. That's probably the most joy that I get in coaching, is to see the development and the love and the passion these guys have each and every day, and getting one day better and seeing small steps each day to get to where we want to be.
Send it back to James Mueller.
Yeah, Doug, last year you were talking about how Tank Dell, Marcus Jones matchup was something you'd pay to see, like just what they do in practice. Has there been any of those matchups in the spring that have just been fun, competitive battles that you've sort of stood out, enjoyed watching?
Yeah, I think Jace and Tank have assumed that matchup. And it's really, the matchup is good. And, it's very difficult to cover Tank no matter who's on him, but it's actually funny because, those 2 used to be roommates, and Coach has alluded to it several times, but Jace never really seems to stop talking. And Tank Dale could go toe for toe with him with the trash talk and the competitive nature. So that's been fun to watch. And then, some of the new guys, Sam Brown and Art, have been fun to watch, as well as Manjack versus Alex Hogan. And then, Matt Golden seems to be making plays all over the field. And I like his style. He's very smooth, has good ball skills, making a bunch of plays out there, but he doesn't really talk trash. He just goes to work every play. So a lot of matchups out there that have been fun to watch. But I would say if I had to pick one, Jason Tank is almost more comical than anything else.
We'll send it over to Joseph Duarte and then keep it open for one more if there is one.
Doug, off of Pro Day, I'm just curious, you guys have a couple of guys that are looking, to get to be, high round picks with Logan and Marcus and possibly a few others. As this program continues to evolve, you've had Peyton, some other guys recently, is that sort of the indicator, or maybe, what you guys are trying to accomplish when you bring in these good guys, that, that's the ultimate destination? Is that sort of a sign of a little sign of where the program is when you get those numbers and you start regularly getting guys drafted?
No doubt. I mean, it goes to show, what the University of Houston is all about. And there's been guys year after year that have been getting drafted here. And if Logan goes in the first round this year, it'll be 3 out of 4 years that we've had a first round pick in the defensive line. And I think that's very significant. And I think the way we play up front is only going to get better. We're acquiring better talent in every position. And then you look at, defensively, we could have overall 4, maybe 5 guys drafted, you know what I mean? And so I think it just breeds more competition. But one thing that I will say is I think Logan gained a lot of confidence between his junior and senior year because him and Peyton were very close. And then he saw Peyton go through that process and he found out I can be just as good or better. And his personality flourished this year. His play on the field flourished. And I think whoever gets him is going to be more than happy. I think he's a plug and play guy. And you look at a guy like David Anini, who may not have had as much attention as Logan. But, I think he's going to be a guy that gets into a camp and gets drafted and is going to do very well because he's intelligent, he's smart, he loves football. He can focus on playing one position. And Marcus and Pepe both have very, very unique skill sets. They're both able to play corner, nickel, and safety. Both have a lot of value with their ability to play man-to-man, zone coverage, and tackle and play in space. So I'm excited about those guys. And Deontay actually had a really good workout as well. A converted safety who's very intelligent, who could do a lot of different things well. His athleticism showed on Pro Day where you saw the vertical jump and some of the times that he was able to put up. And then moving forward next year, the year after, I think that just breeds some confidence in those guys, the guys that they lined up beside and guys that they work out with every day are playing at a high level and have a chance to do something special and represent themselves, their family, and the University of Houston. And so at the end of the day, I think hopefully there's more to come, and I think we're going in the right direction, and it's going to continue to get better.
After the numbers and stuff came out, we didn't get a chance to ask anyone over there, but 38 reps on the bench by Cody Russey, that's pretty impressive. Those O-line guys, hold their weight. A guy like that who can have the measurables or can have, the sort of the things that like that, how big does that maybe open up some eyes, when you go through Pro Day?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of NFL people about a bunch of different guys on our team. And one thing about Cody is Cody's been a pro, right? He's very mature. He does everything right. He's physically strong, but even more mentally strong. And what he was able to bring to our team in 1 year to earn a captain and to be a starter and be well respected. I think his chance that he's going to have is probably improved off of the kind of Pro Day that he had. But it doesn't surprise me, and all of our guys performed well, but they all had a certain level of maturity. And they were 4th-year guys or 5th-year guys that were either in this program and kind of developed under our strength staff and our coaching staff. But, Cody's very impressive, man. Just if you ever sit down and talk to him, whatever he does, he's going to do really well. And I think somebody will get a good player and a good person when he walks into their organization.
Yeah, he was telling us he already has a business, a corporate job lined up, fallback. So it's always good.
Yeah, I think he can hold that for a while. But I think he's somebody who knows what he wants and he's serious business. And obviously he was able to prove why he was such an asset to our team in that short workout that he had the other day.
Doug, if I could ask one more before before anyone else has something here.
Yeah.
Manny, we talked to Manny Nunnery the other day, and obviously a lot of the conversation was about what he was able to bring on the special team side. And he talked about how that opened doors for him. But I'm guessing this year you're going to look for more than just special teams from him. But, it's sort of that's the way for a lot of guys. You look at what Grant Stewart's doing in the NFL. I mean, he understood that role, waited his turn. And is that something now does it make him a better player that when you need him in an every down or a certain down situation that he can come in there and it's not just a special teams play?
Yeah, the one thing that we always encourage, excuse me, is your best players have to be your best players, no matter if it's on offense, defense, or special teams. And so we put our best players on special teams, and sometimes, that creates competition within the room. And then, sometimes when you're a young player or your role is limited, you have to be able to play on special teams sometimes to make the bus or a plane. And if you make those strides in special teams, then you give yourself an opportunity to play more defensively. And, one thing that we pride ourselves on is playing a lot of guys on defense. So if you make the trip, I think we average playing like 31, 32 guys on defense each and every week. And the thing about Manny, he was very, very productive. He's one of the most productive players that we played on defense outside of special teams because his role was last year was to be a backup wheel linebacker to Deontay, and he was a starting linebacker in our sub packages, and you see some of the plays that he was able to make on Saturday with his athleticism and his toughness. Now we just got to harness that for him to continue to develop and be an every down player, because he's no different than a lot of guys that we've had. He's a converted safety that's playing linebacker, and the game started to slow down for him. His production is going to go up. But overall, there's other guys on our team, like we've talked about at linebacker, like these new guys, Tremarcus, Jamal, JG, which is Jalen Gardner, and then Traylon Payne, you know, getting those guys on special teams and letting those guys create a role for themselves. And you know, it's funny that we talk about the special teams, but, you know, Donovan Mutin was begging to play special teams at times last year, right? And then you look at what Grant Stewart was able to do, right? And we tell these guys, we just talked about pro day, if you want to be a Sunday guy, you got to be able to do multiple things well. And your value oftentimes comes as a young player or even a veteran on what you're able to do on special teams. And last year, Coach Scott, we had a couple kickoffs that there in the middle of the season around the South Florida game, and we took our starting safety, Javarius Owens, and put him on special teams, and he was the best guy on kickoff at times last year. So all of those little stories and all those lessons, and guys like Grant Stewart, who's one of the standards for our program, because I've never seen a guy play with that kind of energy and passion, consistently play after play after play. You know, it's a race to the ball. And, you know, we say it all the time, but the plays don't have names on them. And so whoever gets there first, they should be fighting over making plays and fighting who gets to the ball first on defense and special teams and those cover units. We should be one of the best in the country. And I think Coach Scott does a good job of how we implement those teams as well. And some of the drills that we do. And Coach Holgerson puts a major emphasis on special teams, and we spend a lot of time doing that. So I think you see some carryover, but it oftentimes develops guys to have the confidence in playing when the game is on the line on offense and defense. It gives guys confidence to go down and make a play. So I think special teams is very important. And I think a guy like Manny is a prime example of hard work and dedication and buying into being a great teams player, buying into whatever his role may have been last year. And that's why he'll be rewarded in the long run.
Thanks, Doug.
Coach, appreciate your time and look forward to visiting with you again here soon.
All right. Thank you, guys.